My name is Charlotte Wood. I'm the author of a book, Remembering for Both of Us. I would like to share it with you today since you do not have a copy. It's a little book, but I think it's an important book. If you look at the title, you'll see Remembering for Both of Us. Under the main topic, you'll see a child learns about Alzheimer's. So that's what the book is about. I wrote the book to help explain to people what Alzheimer's is. And I wanted especially to explain it to children. It's a baffling disease. Have you ever heard the word Alzheimer's before? Do you know what it means? Do you know anyone who has Alzheimer's? Well, sadly, my husband, Bill, had Alzheimer's for many years. And it was during that time that me and my family and I, learned what Alzheimer's was about. We tried to help him in many, many ways. In fact, my grandchildren didn't understand what was going on at first. I didn't understand what was going on. My family and friends didn't understand what was happening to my husband. And it took some time for the doctors to understand as well. So when I wrote the book, a lot of the things in the book were things that happened to us. As I read and discuss the story about the girl in the book, let's see how she learned about the illness and what was it that she found out that you can be helped with as well. On the first page of the book, you will see a picture of Tasha. She's the little girl in the story. And she's running to her grandfather. She called him Papa. Can you see the expressions that they have, or how do they look when you look at that picture? What does it seem like to you? Is she happy to see him? Is he happy to see her? Well, I'm going to read what's in the book about that. Tasha's grandfather loved it whenever Tasha came to visit. He would wait for her on the front lawn, and before her mother's car could even stop, he would excitedly call to Grandma, "Honey, they're here." Precious Little Girl was the name he had lovingly given his first grandchild when he held her for the first time. Now he would rush to greet her, sometimes with candy, toys, or treats, or other treats. Precious Little Girl was happy to see her Papa. They always did fun and exciting things together. Do you have a grandfather? Do you have an aunt or grandma that come and visit you or take care of you? They say that grandparents sometimes spoil children, their grandchildren. Do you know what that means? Well, it means that they do things with you that maybe the parents wouldn't do. But they're doing it for you to have fun, and they're doing it because they love you. Is that right? Let's look at the next page. These are activities that Tasha's grandfather did with her. And I'm going to read what it says. Grandma and Papa were very happy to take care of Tasha while her parents were at work. They enjoyed helping Tasha and seeing her grow and learn. They saw her take her first steps. Her grandparents taught her lots of things. How to put on her shoes and to tie the laces, to wash her hands and say grace before eating, to eat her vegetables and drink her milk, to do all those things that would help her grow. And of course, they taught her to say please and thank you, and to always be kind to others. Tasha learned quickly, but sometimes she forgot. You know how we all forget, right? Papa told her when she was small to wait for him before feeding the cat. One day she tried to do it all by herself, and milk spilled everywhere. But Papa and Grandma were patient and explained again why it was important to pay attention and to listen carefully to them. No one had to tell Tasha to pay attention when Papa opened up his big red toolbox. Tasha would say, "What is that? What does that do? What's that funny looking thing?" As Papa looked through his many shiny and oddly shaped tools, he would patiently stop to answer her questions. "You need the right thing to fix something right," he would say. And when he allowed her to hold something or hand him something, she was so proud. Papa loved working on projects and fixing things. Sometimes Tasha would help or look from a safe distance at what he was doing. He built and painted birdhouses as a hobby. Sometimes he worked under the hood of his van while whistling with his tools as his tools clinked. Sometimes he drove the tractor, and sometimes he had to work on the tractor, but he loved it. Papa also took Grandma and Tasha on many trips in the van. He told them jokes and stories. Talking and laughing and singing made the trip so special. Papa and precious little girl always had a special relationship, but as time passed, some things changed. Tasha now had a little brother and a baby sister. And when Tasha was 10 years old, her grandparents moved to a new house across town. She missed them picking her up from school and from daycare and taking her home. Now she took the bus home. Tasha was getting used to these things and these changes, but there was something else changing that she did not understand, and this troubled her. Papa was changing. Now when Tasha and her family visited her grandparents, it was Grandma who called out, "Look who's here," not Papa. Instead, he looked sad and confused. He didn't do fun things with Tasha anymore. He asked questions over and over. One time he put his keys in the refrigerator. Another time he poured milk in the sugar bowl. And one day he put his shoes on the wrong feet. What was happening to Papa? Tasha could not understand. Not at all. I want to show you a picture of Tasha looking at her grandpa. You can see she was very upset. Grandma would patiently answer his questions. She would tell him how to do things, what to do and what not to do. She would tell him things like Papa had told her. "That's not your coat, that's Tasha's coat, honey. Close the door behind you. Turn off the water in the sink." When Tasha asked her parents what was happening to Papa, they didn't seem to want to talk about it. Tasha could tell that they were worried too. Why did Grandma look so upset when Papa forgot things? Why was Papa so irritable? She didn't understand what was happening to Papa, not one bit. At breakfast one day, Tasha's mother said she had good news to tell. Papa's going to an adult daycare center. Tasha's little brother giggled and said, "Papa going to a daycare like me?" Before Tasha could ask why, her dad explained, "It's a daycare for grown-ups. Papa will have fun there while you do, just like you do at your daycare." "May I stay with Grandma while Papa is at the adult daycare on my next school break?" Tasha quickly asked. "I can help keep Grandma's company." "That's a great idea," her dad said. On the day that Tasha came, Grandma greeted her with a big hug, but Papa didn't. He didn't even say, "Hello, precious little girl." He just sat silently in his chair. When it was time to go to the adult daycare center, Grandma had to help Papa get ready. "Put your cap on," she told him. "Here's your jacket." "Whoops, wrong arm." When they got into the car, Grandma drove. Grandma drove. Papa loved to drive, but Grandma drove. Papa asked where they were going over and over, and Grandma answered patiently. She reminded him of all the fun he would have with his friends. Still, no matter what Grandma said, Papa seemed upset. Leaving Papa at the daycare was not easy. Okay, so here's the picture of Papa going to the daycare. "Have fun. Enjoy your friends," Grandma said. "We'll be back after lunch." Grandma tried to sound cheerful, but Tasha could tell she was nervous because Papa looked so unhappy. On the ride home, Tasha and Grandma were quiet. There was none of the talk and laughter that Tasha used to look forward to when they returned from a trip. What was happening to Papa? Tasha wondered how she could get the answers she wanted, and Grandma wondered how she could better explain to Tasha all that was happening. When they got home, Tasha and Grandma said almost at the same time, "Now what can we do?" Seeing the little gray cat waiting for them helped brighten their mood. Grandma had an idea. "Let's work on the scrapbook you got for your birthday." It didn't take long to find it in the back room. They also found a craft box filled with glue and scissors and all the supplies they needed. "And look, Tasha," said Grandma, "here's a bag of Papa's favorite peppermints. They can be our treat while we work." Grandma and Tasha sat down and began going through the family photos. They reminded them of all of the fun things they had done. Tasha was full of questions. "Is that really me? Who is that? What are we doing in that picture? Remember this?" What an exciting time that was. They were having fun looking at the pictures from way back when Tasha was young. But then, as they were looking at the pictures and talking about all the things that had happened, Tasha found a picture of herself and Papa standing in front of a brick building. It was a picture of her first day at daycare. The picture reminded Tasha of dropping Papa off at the adult daycare. Tasha turned to Grandma and asked, "What's really happening to Papa?" Grandma was grateful for the chance to talk seriously to Tasha about Papa. This was the moment both of them had been waiting for. Grandma took Tasha's hand and she said, "Papa has something called Alzheimer's." Alzheimer's? Tasha tried to say the word. What's that? It's the name of a disease that some adults get when they grow older. It's a disease that makes you lose your memory, Grandma answered. At first, you forget everyday things like combing your hair or turning off the faucet or closing the door. And then you begin to forget how to do things, even things you once enjoyed doing. You stop recognizing the people you love. They become like strangers to you, and that's the sad and frightening thing. Tasha thought about it. She tried hard to imagine what it would be like not to know anyone or how to do anything. She looked at the picture over and over and remembered her first day at daycare. She had not known how to do anything her teacher had asked her to do, and she didn't even know the other kids. She was frightened. It was frightening. And she wondered if that was how Papa felt now. Can doctors make him better? Tasha asked Grandma. Well, there are medicines that help, and going to adult daycare helps him because Papa gets to exercise and to be around people like himself and to be around people who are trained to work with Alzheimer's patients. But no, there is no cure yet. As Grandma said this, it looked as if she might cry. Is there anything I can do to help? Tasha asked, patting her grandma on her shoulder. Grandma began to smile. Of course. Maybe you can help him do some things that he has forgotten how to do. You know he loves crafts. You know he loves to paint. But you have to be careful. He may spill the paint. Maybe you can sing to him. Tasha nodded. She was beginning to understand what was happening to Papa and what she could do to help. They kept working on Tasha's scrapbook, picking out their favorite photos and gluing them on the pages. Tasha decorated the pages with colored markers. Lastly, she drew red hearts in the corners. Soon it was time to pick up Papa. Tasha slipped something into her pocket as they were leaving. When they saw Papa, Tasha ran to him and gave him a big hug. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out peppermint candy she had brought. Papa, here's a treat for you. She handed him the peppermint candy. Papa took it, unwrapped it, popped it in his mouth, and said, "Thank you, precious little girl." He was smiling now and seemed happy to see Tasha and Grandma. At that moment, one of the caregivers asked Papa to show them what he had done during craft time. Papa hesitated at first, but then he proudly held up a scrapbook page that he had decorated. Grandma and Tasha could hardly believe their eyes. Papa, that design is just like the one we did today. The colors are the same, and look, you put red hearts in the corners. Everyone was truly amazed and happy to see what had happened. Knowing more about what was happening to Papa made Tasha want to show him even more love and attention. However, Grandma could still see sadness in Tasha's eyes whenever she visited. When Tasha spoke to Papa, he would look at her, but usually he would say nothing. How could Grandma help her grandchild understand that while Papa was changing, his love for Tasha had not? The answer she had been praying for came to Grandma one weekend as she and Tasha were preparing their favorite pancake breakfast. She thanked Tasha for being extra kind to Papa and for setting a good example for her brother and sister. Tasha, Grandma said, remember how your papa always used to call you precious little girl? Well, whenever you see Papa, just imagine him saying, hello, precious little girl. You know that's what he would say if he could. Will you remember that, Tasha? A smile lit up Tasha's face. She quickly went over to the chair where her papa sat sleeping, looking at her and looking at him with love. She whispered, yes, Papa, I'll remember. I'll remember for both of us. And Grandpa, that's when he was reading to her. But you can see now, or she understood that she could now read to him. This is a picture showing some of the things that my husband, my grandchildren's papa, did with them when they were small and when he was well. Let's review the story. Before Tasha's grandfather became ill with Alzheimer's, what were some things that he did with her? What were some of the fun things that they did together? Yes, they went on trips. He taught her things. They laughed and sang. He told them stories. And she was always around when he was doing interesting things because he worked on his car and the tractor. What changes took place that made Tasha upset? Yes, he was becoming forgetful, but everybody forget things sometimes, right? But he asked questions over and over again. He became irritable. He was sad, he was confused, and the worst part of it all was he forgot their names. He forgot her name, and that made her very sad. How did Tasha feel? Well, yes, we said she was confused. She was sad. Was she angry? She wasn't angry. She just wanted to help, and she was very worried. How did she learn about what was happening to her papa? Yes, she asked questions until she found the answer from her grandma. Always ask questions, right? Should she have asked Papa questions as he was asking her questions over and over? No, that would have been confusing. What did her grandma tell her to always remember once she learned about Papa's illness? Yes, she told her to always remember that her grandfather loved her. Even though he was changing, he still loved her. What did Tasha find out that she could do to help? She said that she would remember for both of them. That's the title of the story. She would remember for both of them. So if there was something that Papa couldn't do, she would help him to do it. Here are some other activities that children can do to help their Papa or someone with Alzheimer's. They can take short walks with them. They can put a puzzle together. They can color or draw. They can make a memory box. Bake cookies. There are lots of things that can be done, but always remember that, and we made a bookmark to say exactly what I want to say now. Kindness makes the heart smile. We have learned that some Alzheimer's patients lose their ability to smile. That's why they look sad. But we made a bookmark, my brother and I, and it says, kindness makes the heart smile. So when you're kind to someone with Alzheimer's or anyone who's sick, even though they are not smiling and they are not understanding what's happening, their heart does, or they cannot express it to you, please remember that they feel good inside because you've done something to make them smile.